as they say in TV, stand by for the Joe Franklin Show. When you hear that theme called Joe's Theme, you know you're at Joe's Place. That's me. There's no business like Joe business. No show like this particular edition, because you're going to meet some spectacular people. You're going to meet, and I know that Helen Hayes doesn't mind if I say this, you're going to meet the First Lady, the most respected lady of American theater, the one and the only, and one of my very first TV guests ever, Jean Dalrymple. When you hear Jean Dalrymple reminiscing today about Cary Grant and Jimmy Cagney and Orson Welles and Charlie Chaplin, I think it's going to be kind of a blockbuster. Part 2 today, as promised, of the life and times and songs of Al Alberts of the Four Aces. We're going to meet the man today who has been with a major paper covering every major story longer than any other photographer, Mr. Louis Liotta. Mr. Liotta is going to reminisce about a photographer of years ago named Ouija, who was kind of a long-time idol, one of the most celebrated photographers ever. There's going to be one photographer reminiscing about the other one. I mentioned, and by the way, with us today, by popular demand, Rosie, the Greenwich Village poet. Things are rosy for Rose of Washington Square, a marvelous lady. I happen to be a fanatic fan of Rosie. What nostalgia, and the big party is only just beginning. Stay with me. We're going to have what is known as a show of shows, a blue ribbon panel. Get ready for it. Clark Gable said he could never have played the part. Clark Gable said he is not suited. That's the one part he didn't think he could handle. And look what happened. Al Alberts, ladies and gentlemen, the renowned archivist and musicologist named Walter Gollender might reintroduce, and this, I would say, is a landmark idea, a two-part tribute to that marvelous group, the group that I still adore. More than ever I adore, the Four Aces, and Mr. Gollender will set the scene for the man behind the group.
Well, the gentleman here, Al Alberts, set a prototype of the groups that were to come in the later 50s, and besides the fact that they originated choreography, how did you feel when you were doing all those hand movements on Perfidia and Should I?
Well, believe it or not, that was done in self-defense, Joe. We were four musicians. Dave was a tenor saxophone player, Sadi was trumpet player, Louis was the drummer, and I was the piano player who sang with a boom mic. Well, once we got a hit recording, which was It's No Sin, the first one, they took our instruments away from us, and we didn't know what to do with our hands. So we brought in a choreographer, and we literally stayed in front of the mirrors for almost 6 weeks.
That's funny.
Learning, and that's why we did it, because we didn't know what to do with our hands.
You know, when you said self-defense reminded me when Eddie Cantor was here many years ago. You remember a little thing called vaudeville? I got to talk with Jean Dalrymple. Remember vaudeville?
Absolutely.
And he was in vaudeville, and he did that famous, clapping his hands and running back and forth. And the reason he ran back and forth because they used to throw tomatoes at him. And that was the only way he could duck the vegetables.
Really?
Yeah, that was the beginning of that back and forth technique of Eddie
The interesting thing is the groups that followed after the Aces all copied two aspects: the shuffle rhythm, which Al, I think you had been inspired by Jay and Savitt, as I recall, right? And they all did that really gutsy kind of heavy singing, and the Aces set the style for the groups that came later on. I don't want to name them all, but they all harkened back to the Four Aces.
They followed in your sound steps.
Talking about setting styles, we've been in television back in Philadelphia, Joe, for 20 years with a show called Al Alberts Showcase. We work with young people, and it has been an experience for me. Now, I watch you in my living room most of the nights that I'm able to do it, but watching you do this in person has been really an experience for me, and I want to thank you for it.
Boy, from a pro, that's
no kidding.
Compliment. I've got that certain nothing. No.
What about the fact Al last was with you 30 years ago?
30 years
I can't get over that.
We were much older 30 years ago. Al, do you
I've changed, but you haven't.
Al, do you miss the big bands and the big clubs?
I don't miss the clubs.
No.
We are now doing concert work. maybe 2 or 3 times a month, Joe, and in areas that I really love. For instance, recently we were with the St. Louis Symphony, the Houston Pops, the Atlanta Symphony.
The original Four Aces or a remake?
All original 4 guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, a thrill of thrills. I'm going to give you a little bit of what we call I Am With You wandering through memory lane. First with a couple of photographs, then a little bit on videotape of the Four Aces. They have sold a combined number of records to the amount of
100 million. I learned my lesson.
100 million records. And maybe you'll see them over here, Mr. Alberts, and give us a little bit of what we're watching as we go down.
Well, that is my favorite action shot. That is the Dorsey Brothers stage show, January 21st, 1956.
There's Al Alberts.
That's they're hitting the high note, and love is a many splendid thing on that. That is one of the hospitals the Four Aces visited.
Oh, Kate Smith show.
Yes, the late, great Kate Smith. That's December 1952.
What a lady she was.
Cash Box Award picture, the best vocal group of 1953 and 54. That's Bob Austin, by the way. That's the Academy Awards where they did Written on the Wind, which was a nominee that
year.
Dorothy Malone. That's March of 1957. Do I have to say anything about that one?
Really big show. Really big shoe. Ed Sullivan show with the Four Aces.
First time on the show doing Love is a Many Splendid Thing.
How many Ed Sullivan shows about, would you say?
4.
4, at least. In person, Gene Krupa and the Four Aces.
One of 5 appearances at the New York Paramount.
Wow.
Again, another New York Paramount show.
On the bill with the Four Aces, Phil Foster and Polly Bergen. And Groucho Marx in A Girl in Every Port with Marie Wilson.
And in the previous Paramount show, the opening act was a fellow who never made it named Alan King.
Early day TV.
That's what the folks saw at home on television. And there's Miss Patty Page doing Should I with the Four Aces in February of 1958.
The singing rage, Miss Patty Page.
And there's Patty Page of Frankie Lane, the Four Aces, Sal Mineo, and Ray Anthony.
Everybody. Sal Mineo, what a memory.
And here's the first major hit.
Tell me why.
Which Al co-wrote.
Tell me why we shouldn't show this video right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honoring, and I say it again, a landmark bit of honoring. Why don't you put out one of those LPs that they sell on the TV shows, like the greatest hits of the Four Aces?
Funny you should ask.
Really? It's going to happen?
I just put a package together.
Really?
In discussing with MCA, who owns all of our gold records.
MCA?
Yeah.
Great company.
And the package will include the 20 gold records with MCA, and then a new album I produced so that you could hear the Four Aces as they sang the gold and as they sing today. And the name of that album is If I Never Sing Another Song.
Wow.
And the package together we call the Golden Treasury.
I want to buy the first 6 because I love that.
I'll send you the first copy.
Mr. Alberts, what goes through your mind remembering that night, that moment, that rendition?
That was in South America, and the audiences down there are just warm, wonderful, and it's exciting to entertain them. And that also goes for the audiences we're playing to back in our own country now. And it's kind of thrilling, Joe, to stand on stage and you do a medley going from It's No Sin to Tell Me Why to Stranger in Paradise, and you can tell which of the songs affected which of the people sitting in your audience.
You know how many people you put into, let's say a young lady was recalcitrant or reluctant to a little bit of amour, and they heard the Four Aces singing Love is a Many Splendid Thing, and you put her in a romantic mood, and they got married and made babies. you ever think about these things, Al?
Yeah, in fact,
a lot of people come backstage and said they got married or they met somebody in South America or in Europe. How about during the war? How many soldiers come back and see you?
Well, we had airplanes and tanks and all of that, which was just thrilling. But every now and then, Joe, a guy comes along and says, "You and your music." That one didn't work out too good. You know?
Not for you. I wouldn't have had that aggravation, right? Ladies and gentlemen, Al Alberts told us yesterday, the ace of the Four Aces, told us that he's got one ambition, to have one more multi-million seller, and the word is the new one might, taking off a little bit up until, right?
In the tri-state area of our home base of Philadelphia, New Jersey, and all the state of New Jersey into Delaware and Virginia, we're doing very well with an album called A Summer Sing-Along.
And one of the songs in there is called
On the Way to Cape May.
And Walter Gollender gave it a rave in his column.
5. I gave it 5 Little Joe Franklin. That's the highest you can get. 5. It's a 5 Franklin Award.
That's the medical profession's highest rating.
5.
4 scars.
5
4
Joes.
scars. Ladies and gentlemen, the newest by Mr.
That was
Albert.
cute.
A touch, a sample.
You look so very pretty when we met in Ocean City, like someone oh so easy. To adore, I sang this little ditty.